Never made it as a wise man. I couldn't cut it as a poor man stealing. Tired of living like a blind man. I'm sick aside without a sense of feeling. And this is how you remind me.
Hello everybody, and welcome to a lost episode of the Spoiler Warning Podcast, where we reviewed The Death of Dick Long. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week in the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest film releases coming to a streaming platform near you. This week, things are going to be a little bit different. The Death of Dick Long is a film that Stephen and I caught at the SF Film Festival in early 2019. I believe
it was 1 year and 1 month ago, I believe, April 12th.
Oh, shit. So a very timely review. I believe that the film got an actual release sometime in September and came out on DVD in December. So once again, still timely. However, one fortuitous thing, the filmmakers released an audio commentary last week, which was added to the iTunes purchase, and they also put it up, via a link in Twitter, probably on SoundCloud or something, where anybody could download it and kind of go back and revisit that film. So technically, we found a window for releasing this episode.
We did it. I mean, this is easily the longest gap ever between viewing a movie and kind of talking about a movie, even just recording this intro, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not the only lost episode we have done. There is an episode of Aloha. There's the famous Homesman review that has never seen the light of day. There is one involving Chris Hemsworth, which may or may not see the light of day. We'll find out at some point. But this one gives me hope that, resurrections are possible, right? It's never too late. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of pull back the curtain and reveal the sausage making and whatnot, essentially, when we do festival runs, Steven and I record a shit ton of episodes in a row. And for the most part, I'll try to just marathon those and do daily releases. But with the SF Film stuff, for whatever reason that year with the programming, a lot of those films were coming out within the weeks following when we got to see the film. So it wasn't like a total thing where we were seeing it months in advance. It was like maybe 2 weeks in advance, 3 weeks, maybe 1 month in advance. So some of those started to get spread out, and we were also seeing a bunch of other films, shortly after that. So it was one of those things we just started holding episodes till the official release date for that film, and then we drop into the feed our SF Film review. This time, we missed that window. It didn't work out. But this weekend, we hadn't picked anything specific to review. I know a lot of people are probably reviewing Capone, which I don't think a lot of people are liking. But we kind of just took a break this week, and we decided we'd gather to to record a new intro to this. So, Stephen, did you revisit The Death of Dick Long?
I did not, but I did revisit the raw audio of our original review of The Death of Dick Long, and it brought me the same joy that the movie did originally. I mean, and you loved it more than me. You're the one who, spoilers, you put it in your top 10 of the year list last year. So you had a lot of love for Dick Long.
I literally put it in my top 10.
Yep. I remembered what I loved about it. I do think between this and Swiss Army Man, the Daniels have some tricks up their sleeve, and without spoiling anything, I do think that this is a journey worth going on.
Yeah, for sure. There was one interesting thing that I thought about while watching this rewatch, because I did revisit yesterday. I started with the commentary on, but as the plot starts to sort of thicken in the film, I jettisoned the commentary because I wanted to get back to the actual dialogue that was spoken in these scenes where characters are talking about it, because I think this film is really, really good. I was telling my girlfriend that, at surface level, this film is some bubbling idiots from Alabama getting themselves in way over their head. But they have some incredibly nuanced performances in this where it takes a lot of acting chops to have that sort of run of the consciousness of your brain stuttering as you kind of it's not an easy thing to deliver the authenticity of somebody who is just kind of forcing their way through almost getting caught in situations and stuff. I don't know.
Right. I feel like the actor who played Earl must have been in method for like months building up to this movie just to get the behavior right.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think it was really fun. I hope people enjoy it. The other thought that I really had about it that was kind of interesting is, and I this is a stupid thought considering we're talking about this a year after we saw it. But I really wish people could watch this in groups because I think it's the type of movie where there is it's humorous, but part of the humorousness of it, is that a word?
I think humor is the word I would go for.
Yeah. Part of the humor of this film is that squirmy nature of what is happening and watching and feeling the people around you react to what you're reacting to. It's just,
it's a very communal movie, I think.
Yeah. So it is sad that any listeners now who decide to go back and watch this will likely be watching it in groups of 1 or 2. But it's totally worth the visit. And in a moment, you'll hear why we think it is worth the visit.
Yeah, watch it with any companion you might have, man, woman, other. All of them will enjoy this movie together with you.
Yeah. So without further ado, I think we're going to get into this episode officially. So the way this is going to work is we are going to play the trailer right now for The Death of Dick Long. And when that trailer ends, we're just going to drop you right in to the point where the trailer would have played. However, at the time we recorded, there wasn't a trailer. So you might get some references to the fact that there is no trailer, but you will have just listened to it. But yeah, from here on out, you'll be listening to the real original episode in its entirety. So hope you enjoy and hope you like this lost episode. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, you motherfuckers want to get weird?
Damn, dude.
How you doing back there, Dick?
Fucking close enough.
You know, I normally don't call y'all about minor shit.
This is a big deal. I get it.
It's a whole nother ballgame.
Lord.
Did you hear about the murders?
Huh?
Someone dropped this guy off in front of the ER.
Brutally
Murdered.
Murderer? Who the fuck's a murderer?
We're the fucking murder!
Guess we got a little carried away last night.
Once I had a secret love.
You know what, dude? What they do in Pulp Fiction?
Call Anthony Kiedis.
You think of Harvey Keitel, Anthony Kiedis is the dude from Red Hot Chili
Shut the
Peppers.
fuck up.
Me.
You were with Dick last night.
Yeah, not really. Yeah, but just for a little while. I left early.
He didn't come home.
The S has hit the fan. What? The S.
I don't know what you're spelling, dude.
Excuse me, police lady?
Dick was dead.
Dick is short for Richard?
Oh, yeah. How did he die?
He fell on a table saw. He got shot by a hunter. Alcohol poison.
How did he die? Zeke, tell me the truth.
And my secret love's no secret anymore.
Are you joking?
So,
Did they even play a clip of this in the highlight reel going in, or did we both go in just knowing Daniel Scheinert of the Daniels was the director sold?
That was all that we knew. I'll be 100% honest. When I was flipping through the catalog, when I finally got one, I was like, I don't know what The Death of Dick Long is, but I'm definitely not going to watch that movie. It seems ridiculous. And I just passed it. It wasn't until the panel when they were saying like, oh, and also we have this film from one half of the Daniels. I was like, oh, I need to put that on my list because I'm going to see it. Longtime listeners of the show know that Swiss Army Man was my favorite film of the year that came out. Huge fan of that. And I was like, yes, I have to see what is up next for one half of this pair.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that answers your question.
I forgot that we don't have a trailer to listen to again.
But yeah, so basically The Death of Dick Long is essentially the story of a group of friends, and one night while they're getting weird,
Y'all want to get weird?
something happens to one of them, and they drop him off at the hospital, and unfortunately he passes away, and it's sort of the two remaining buddies trying to deal with the events of what happened, and kind of figuring out how they're going to hide from everyone that they know who also knows this other friend too. And it's sort of just the shenanigans that they get into in Alabama somewhere where they're from. Stephen Miller, what did you think of The Death of Dick Long?
I think this is a flawed movie, and I fucking love it. I had so much fun with this movie. So I was trying to think about like what is it that I guess I can only speak to Daniel Scheinert, but let's say the Daniel.
Yeah.
What does the Daniel do? Because I've seen two.
So if I could before I don't know if this is going to step on what you're going to say, but when we reviewed Swiss Army Man, I made some statement to the form of it may be completely on accident. They may have accidentally made an incredibly profound film about what it means to be alive and to appreciate the life that you have, or they could have been just trying to make fart jokes and accidentally made a film that I read as really, really profound statements on the meaning of being alive. This film kind of shows that at least half of it was just trying to make fart jokes.
Maybe. Yeah. So what I was going to say is the thing that those two have in common, now that I have 2 points, I'm going to pretend to draw a line that explains everything about this director. If I can try to trace a line from these two movies, it's the idea of taking what should be the punchline of a joke, and instead of having it at the end where a punchline goes, putting it somewhere else in the movie, and then making everyone take it really fucking seriously and just seeing what happens, right?
Yeah.
In Swiss Army Man, the punchline is Daniel Radcliffe is a farting corpse, right?
Yeah.
But that punchline happens at the very beginning of the movie, and the whole rest of the movie, after the laughing wears off, is like, okay, so what are we going to do now, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes about the reality of how would Paul Dano's character deal with this new information. This movie, we're going to have to go into spoilers to talk about for some parts at least, but suffice it to say, there is a mystery of why their friend died, and yet the funny idea of this movie is like, what if a bunch of guys from the South who are kind of bumbling had to cover up a quote crime? You know, we don't know what it is, but had to cover something up.
Something that ended poorly for somebody.
Yeah. But instead of, I wouldn't even call it like a black comedy in the Coen brothers sense. It's more like, we're going to take this thing, they're going to be bumbling, it's going to be funny, but we are going to wrench it for character drama and just be like, okay, now you have to live in real time with them over the next day as they try to cover up their tracks and account for what has happened. And I just thought that was really, really well done. When I say flawed, I mean because I think there's a moment kind of in the middle of this movie could be trimmed by like 10 minutes and you wouldn't lose anything. Like it overstays its welcome a little bit, I think, in the mid part, but the character beats are just so specific and great to me. Like somebody in the Q&A mentioned Logan Lucky, and I think that's a good comparison because it's a movie that is definitely making light of Southern behavior, but it is not like laughing at them from a distance. It's like an in-joke, and it feels like a really loving portrait. And I felt that here. Like all of these characters feel like people I've met before, and I don't even live in the South. Like Earl, we all have met an Earl, right? Like Earl in San Diego probably works at a surf shop now, or
we
like,
know Earl is Spence.
Yeah, Earl is Spence. The California Earl like rides dirt bikes in the desert every other weekend.
California Earl? That's like some royal dude. I am the Earl of Soma.
But anyway, he's like he's a very specific kind of character where he's like a bit of a fuck up, but he kind of means well. But he also his sentences like always tumble off without ending or getting anywhere. And then you have Zeke is the more family man who looked like the lead singer of Switchfoot to me. But anyway, he's the more kind of like, all right, I've got my shit together. I've got to like lead the group and be responsible. He has a younger daughter. He has a wife. He's trying to hide things from them, and he's doing a terrible job. Every part of his plan goes wrong. There's kind of like the buddy cops in this movie, but instead of being the traditional like two male cops who like drink whiskey and stuff, it's two female cops, one of whom is Sarah Baker, drinking Malibu and pineapple juice, and it's just like it could be seen if it didn't handle it correctly as being just a kind of like, we are gonna make fun of rednecks, right, and call it a day. But it takes it seriously enough that I thought it was like really, really nice, and I liked it a lot. And like it kind of opens up like, what would you do in this circumstance? Like, think about how terrifying this would be to this guy. And I don't know, we'll have to talk about the rest in spoilers, but I was really, really glad that I saw this movie. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, like I thought it was really good in a way that I didn't know what to expect. I was just hoping against hope that it was going to be fun and interesting. But I thought it was really, really good. You said that you don't think it's quite Coen Brothers-y, but the whole time I was watching the movie, I was like, this is Hillbilly Fargo, like 100%.
Sure,
like,
okay, I get it.
And one of the things that I like about this even more than in something like Fargo, and like, just for the record, so people know contextually, I actually am a bigger fan of the Fargo show than the film, especially season 1. I just really like how stretched out it is and everything. Anyways, not really important. I just wanted to give some context for things. But I think in those stories, there is like an initial accident, and the people get in trouble because they're trying to cover up something that technically wasn't 100% their fault in the first place, and if they would have just dealt with it at the time, it wouldn't be that crazy. This takes that and flips it on its head, because there is no context for which they could get away by just immediately turning themselves in and everybody would be fine, right? This isn't just like, oh, I accidentally hit somebody with my car. That's tragic. Involuntary manslaughter, we're cool. Right? This is like a thing that part of the fear is not just the normal, I'm in trouble with the law. It's something else, which we'll get to.
Well, and it's also, this is my friend, right? Like, this is our friend. We know his wife. Their wives are like friends with each other. Like, he's in our community. How do I like engage this in a way where people aren't going to hate me?
And like you could see this. You could see a similar story taking place where these guys were drunk shooting at cans, and then the next door neighbor walked by and then got shot by a stray bullet, and then they're like, oh shit, what do we do? We're going to be in trouble for murder. Let's get rid of the body. You could do a story like that, and it would have some of the same humor beats, but I think that there is this through line in this film, especially because you don't really know what actually happened. You just see how they respond to it. And I feel that like they are so earnestly meaning well in everything that they do, and just scared. And because like, it's not just that they're simple folk, it's that they're actually kind of like heartwarming in a little bit, and like they're dealing with their own things. And like, I just found it incredibly funny. There was this heightened level of stuff. And as you said, there are funny things that are revealed later that are delivered in such a deadpan way that like you're almost in tears the way the characters are. Where like, if I told you what it was, which we'll tell you in spoilers, you would just be like, how is this even serious?
Right.
But like, I think it knows exactly what it's doing the whole time, and it's completely in control, but it's about characters that are not in control of anything. And it straddles that line between being serious and being just absurd, and it does it perfectly. And I think, I really enjoyed it. And I think it's going to be funny. It's going to be incredibly funny if we get to the end of this film festival and people ask me what was my favorite thing that I saw, and I say it was the death of Dick Long.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, in that feeling of being in control and the movie knowing what to do, I think a big part of that is like the score and soundtrack. Again, like, not quite to the heights of Swiss Army Man, but this is a movie that like knows its music cues and it plays them for full effect. Like, there's a montage toward the end of this movie that again, after everything you've learned, like Fargo wouldn't end that way, right? That's why I'm saying like this isn't. I hear you plot wise, it's very Coen-y, but the difference is the Coens kind of have a nihilism to the bleak comedy, which I don't know. Like of course you're still rooting for like the main character because she's warm-hearted and stuff in that movie, but this is a movie that is like wrenching it for actual drama. And this montage toward the end, I almost had forgotten that what I'd just seen was like basically a drawn out mystery where I wasn't supposed to know what had happened. I was feeling like I had just watched like an episode of Parenthood or something. I was like, oh, I feel for all these characters and where they wound up in life. It pulls a really interesting trick on you where you like, you feel it mines you for emotion even when like it doesn't feel deserved if you were to just write on paper what the movie was about. Yeah. And I like that. I also like the different things. So there's a thing that I really liked that Daniel Scheinert said during the Q&A where people asked kind of why did you make this movie and how did you thread the needle between like gently making fun of a place versus punching down to it. And what he said is a big frustrating paradox about the South is everybody's favorite thing to do is to gossip about, did you hear what so-and-so did? So like the worst possible thing that any Southerner has done becomes what everybody loves to talk about and elevate and bring into the discourse. And then it gets big enough that the outside world sees it and goes like, ha ha, fucking rednecks, everybody does that. And this movie is kind of like, it's like highlighting little absurd things that people do, like somebody is mowing their lawn with a lawnmower on a rope
down the side of a hill, and rather than walk the lawnmower down and up the hill, they just like extend it down with a rope and pull it back up.
Yeah, like there are little things like that where it's making fun of eccentric things, but it's never saying this is how all people are, right? Like you get a pretty surprising variety of people who are all Southern and living in Alabama, right? You get like the lesbian police officer, and you get she's Indian or Pakistani probably, is Earl's friend.
Yeah.
Who, when she had a Southern accent, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It isn't only like a bunch of white dudes who live here. Like there actually is some diversity everywhere you go. And it was just interesting seeing a kind of full picture of Southern life through the prism of this big unknown mystery that we will talk about in spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's been a quick episode so far, but we can definitely kind of wrap up and then get into spoilers. So for now, let's do verdicts. Stephen Miller, if you're going to give us a must-see, recommend with the caveat, wait for rental, pass with the caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
About halfway through the movie, I was at recommend with a caveat, and then it upswung into a must-see. I just think this executes really, really well on what it's doing, and it's just like the perfect movie to stumble into at a like late night festival showing and just start to laugh your ass off and then also feel actual feelings at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a must-see for me. There's definitely like a sort of floating caveat in there in that like some people will not appreciate this movie. Some like I can just see people not being on board with it once all is said and done. But I think most people should be able to get past that and just have a good time with it. But yeah, for me, must see.
Yep. Nice.
So before we get to spoilers, Stephen Miller, if people want to find you throughout the week, where can they do that?
They can go to twitter.com/sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or Twitter.com/ChristopherIRL. You can find the podcast over at SpoilerWarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, you can do so in Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at Twitter.com/SpoilerWarning, Facebook.com/TheSpoilerWarning, or Instagram.com/TheSpoilerWarning. If you want to get hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from probably just that jingle to SF Film. And
wait, you're not going to use Nickleback? You gotta use fucking Nickleback. I'm not going to tell them why, but you have to use it.
All right, fine.
I want us to get banned on YouTube again.
That one, they were like, you know what? They can just have it.
We're gonna get banned for having like harmful audio in the.
But yeah, so they'll come from Nickleback in some form. Should we just record a cover of it?
Sure, why not?
But yeah, so that is
Never
playing.
made it as... Wait, fuck. Never made it... Fuck.
So that music is playing right now, and if you stick with us, we'll be back in spoilers to tell you some crazy shit. But yeah, music's gonna fade up. When it fades out, we'll be in spoiler territory, so watch out. All right, so we are back. This is spoiler territory. It's the after part of our review of The Death of Dick Long. This is going to be full-blown spoilers, so you better watch out because we're going to be coming at you like a horse.
Mm-hmm. So, the big reveal, Daniel Scheinert made a movie about someone with an unhealthy erotic fixation on a horse, and it's not the one starring Daniel Radcliffe.
Nice.
Hashtag Equus.
But yeah, so essentially what we find out at the end of this film is that night they got weird. They decided to get weird with the horse that the family owns, and their friend died due to hemorrhaging inside of his rectum from being
Getting fucked by a horse.
Getting fucked by a horse. Yeah. Or as the direct quote from the film is, he got fucked to death.
Any old cowboy can fuck a horse, but it takes a cow man to get fucked by a horse.
There was in the scene where Zeke is talking to his wife and trying to like get the nerve to explain what happened. The wife was like, "You mean he was riding on the horse?" And the guy next to me goes, "The horse was riding on him."
and so that, okay, so this reveal happens. The interesting thing is, like, I felt almost bad even referring to the joke or the punchline of this movie, because you know that it's kind of funny, but you don't know that the reveal of how he died is going to be funny, right?
Yeah.
We don't know anything about it. And the movie, to its credit...
Let's be honest, it's not funny, it's deadly serious.
Yeah. The movie, to its credit, waits 2/3 of the way through before giving it to us. And we get clues, like they find semen in the body.
So that's the thing, is what we know is he was dropped off at the hospital bleeding out of his ass. At one point, before the actual reveal, Zeke tries to make a statement like, "Oh, he fell on a saw blade" or something like that. And they're like, "Well, what was he doing on a saw blade or whatever?" Right? So there are moments where, like, we don't know what's happening on. As you said, an autopsy takes place, and the guy's like explaining other situations in which there was been like bad rectal injury and how he saved a person and how like this person was like beyond saving. It was so bad. And you're like, what the fuck happened? And they start talking about semen in his anus. And then they're like, well, you know what? We did a test and that's, it's not human semen. It's like, what the fuck? And it is just like a slow reveal. And before it's that, it's just the cops being like, man, these guys are perverts or something, right? Like, so it's sort of disguising it in what would be not very weird and exciting circumstances.
Yeah.
And then slowly you're finding more and more information that makes it weirder and weirder and weirder until it's finally revealed by actually just stating it verbatim.
Yeah.
He got fucked to death by a horse.
Yeah, Zeke telling his wife. In that moment, like, it is very funny, of course, when it happens. And in that moment, I had a brief feeling of like, God, no, movie, you're going to do this. Like, now it's just going to be hokey the rest of the way. Like, I was really vibing with this character, and now you're just going to make it be a goofball thing. And that it manages to take it back again. It's like, like it settles on his wife around the same like time it settles on us. And she kind of like, I feel like there are moments where she's like stifling a laugh while she's also like deeply upset. And like that just kind of like tips into being upset. And from then on, it's like a drama again about like, how do we hide this? Like, how do we tell his wife? Like, how do we tell anybody? And
that's the funny thing too, is like there are just little running jokes that seem like dumb throwaway, like hillbilly jokes. Like they're having that conversation about whether Ted is short for Theodore or Ted is short for whatever the other one, Edward. And they're like having like, and it doesn't mean anything, but then you start to realize that like everybody's confused about what nicknames are, and then nobody knows that Richard and Dick are the same. And like there's these things just staring you in your face that like, this is what fucking happened. Just put it together, and you're waiting for them to be like, huh, that's weird. And it's like, wait, you gave me your friend's wallet without his light. Why wouldn't you just like, there's all these moments where like everybody, and then you have like the daughter who is just an innocent little kid who happened to be stuck in this weird situation. Yeah. And like, one of my favorite parts in the film is when the daughter's like, did I just get daddy in trouble? And the mom's like, no. And he's just like, yeah, you got daddy in trouble. It's so.
I love the depiction of parenthood in this movie too, because you really get the feeling of how, and I get that this is true in any movie about parenthood, blah, 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 of like, it's just people fucking trying their best who suddenly have a kid they have to deal with, right? Yeah. And like Zeke doesn't know how to handle his own life, and he's trying to like be gentle and shield his daughter from what's going on, but like blood, she gets like covered in blood, and there's all these things, and the mom
from his friend's rectum,
and the mom. I hadn't thought about that. The mom also, she's like,
my anus.
She's yelling, like she's really mad at Zeke, and they're having arguments. And then there's like a moment when like her daughter kind of walks up and has heard them like yelling, and she's just kind of like, oh, fuck. Like they're just these things of parenthood being like, fuck, and now also I have to do this.
Yeah.
I thought it was like the way it plays out, like with the long conversation with them and the police officer is like, I think like very masterfully built together, like where it's just everything collides, and now all of a sudden you're stuck in just this terribly awkward conversation.
The running joke of him pretending to like coffee, but apparently he's never drinking coffee in his life, because just like, oh, let me get,
and then nobody like, because there's so much politeness and like small talk taking place, like there's like long stretches of time where the police officer is alone with Dick Long's wife, and like she manages to ask like, what does your husband do? How do you know these people, without ever asking like, who are you?
Yeah.
I just thought it was super well done.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know.
And you have like the other running gag of how Dick Long's wife is scared that Dick Long is cheating on her, and he's like, oh, there's another woman, isn't there? He's like, no, there's another fucking horse. And like, just like in their relationship fights where Zeke is just like, just because I like to get weird with a horse doesn't mean I never loved you. And it's just like, it's what
I don't understand too, like the movie leaves it vague, like that was the first time anyone tried being mounted by the horse.
No,
Quicksilver or whatever.
Definitely. Because he makes that joke about how like just because he's into that sort of thing doesn't mean that because he says, I was into this way before I met you.
No, right. So in general, so I know they've been doing sexual things with the horse, but he says this time was different. Like they'd never done
this
that.
Time was different.
Well, he said they'd never done quite.
His friend just got destroyed.
Yeah, well, he was saying they'd never done quite that before. So I was wondering, like, do they normally like jerk off the horse, or I don't know. We would know if we let his like shirtless scene with the horse go on longer, but yeah, what a fucking movie.
It's definitely unlike anything that you'll probably see anywhere else. I really enjoyed it. It was a really fun Q&A too, because I think some of the Q&As at festivals are very over serious, and people are, they want to ask the question to show that they're really knowledgeable about whatever, or they're like, I am an aspiring filmmaker. How would you suggest I make a horse fucking movie? And I think this was just a bunch of people that were totally vibing on the film, asking, like, a lot of people were like, I'm from Appalachia. This is like very, very cool that you told the story. And I had fun with it. And I just really like them talking about like how the writer had the idea for this film like 10 years ago, and it was the one out of everything that he pitched to people, they were like, don't make that movie. And this is the one that we're getting to see at this festival. Yep. I'm glad it got made.
Yeah, me too. Now, do you think he's going to pigeonhole himself as the guy that makes movies about fucking horses?
Don't know.
Cool.
All right. Well, I think we're going to take off and talk about a more serious film. Also pretty lighthearted, but definitely no horse fucking in that documentary.
Yeah.
Never made it as a wise man. Couldn't cut it as a poor man stealing. All right. Tired of living like a blind man. Sick of sight without a sense of feeling. This is how you remind me. It's coming, dude.